Good morning, and there's Alfonso Martinez. This is Grace right here. She wants to be in here in the video, but I'm gonna put it down for right now. And I'm gonna choose it to my other one. This is the mama. This is Faye. Come here, Coco. And here's Gracie, my nature girl. These are my three Yorkies that I have, and they want to be here with me for this video presentation of what I'm doing. When we talk about the inner city ministry. But my focus is on the church community, compassion versus competitiveness in the church. And before we can even go out there to minister to a community that's in need. As when I approached my team members about this, Reginald and Christy, I told them that my standpoint was totally different and where I was coming from. Being that I've dealt a lot in 4 communities, as an officer in the Salvation Army, four of the 6 communities I've been at have been struggling communities where the city has moved beyond their community and left them impoverished to where they're struggling with no services, in rural areas. So my thing in my section, I am focusing on sections 1 and 2. The compassion, the philosophy and theology, and then section 2, the collaboration of the church. In the first one that we have, it talked about the of course we know what compassion is. The theory and philosophy of compassion is the act of generosity and grace towards our fellow man. While the theology of compassion is the act of works, the compassion towards an individual to the work of Christ and the Holy Bible's principles. This brings us in the philosophy of competitiveness, it's that desire to want to win. While the theology of competitiveness is desire to win by any means necessary, foregoing the morals and values taught to us by Jesus Christ and the Bible. And this is, well, Al, you probably say, well, why is all this, what's that have to do with the inner city ministry of what we want to do in the community? It has a lot to do with it, because foremost, the church has to be on board on this. How can we minister to individuals in the community if there's strife within the church? This is why the community calls us so many times. They call us hypocrites because of our standings. We say holy, 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 but we really don't mean it. And in some of the places I've been in, even some of the churches I've been going to, attending some of the meetings, you hear that tone in them. Well, we want to, but we really don't really mean it. We want to look good, saying that we care, but let's just stay right here within our own confines and minister to our own folks. And this is where the compassion of the church comes into trouble, because as a church, the compassion should be to want to help those who are needing help as they're growing. And the compassion also in the church should be to be able to support our pastors in that role as lay people. Support them in the leadership as they share their vision with them to the congregation. The congregation saying, "We're with you, Pastor." See, but this also means that we have to be working together to also keep each other accountable in our actions towards one another, because if we don't, this is where the competitiveness of the church comes into play, because it's here that we want to control individuals and their roles in the church. We want to be able to exclude those undesirable individuals from certain programs. And then just one of the few things that needing to be the best Christian possible, regardless of the outcome. And then if you don't think I'm hitting some points, I am. Think about when you do vacation Bible school and you have the teachers going against each other, trying to outdo each other, trying to see who can quote the most scriptures and verses by memory by the end of the week. That's competitive right there, because we're losing focus of why we do vacation Bible school, okay, or why we even do Sunday school. Not so much that we want them to grow in the knowledge of Christ. We want that, but we as the teachers want to look good in that at the same time. I'm not trying to throw stones for anybody. This is what I've seen in the 20-somewhat years as a man of God walking with Christ that I've seen in other churches. And even my own church, the Salvation Army. We play a holy role and we say we're holy, but yet so many times we forget why we do what we do. And this is where it comes to judging each other instead of praying for each other. We should be praying for one another before we go anything else. But then how does this all happen? How do you weed out these problems? Well, you have to find the things that are going wrong with the church. Every church has a problem. There's not one church that is perfect. And if there is, there's something wrong behind that picture, because there is no perfect church. Okay? You have to find those issues that are going on so they can be easy to correct to give hope for improvement. If you want to see those people that are around you say, hey, we can make a difference in the community. Then we have to raise the awareness of competitiveness that has plagued the church for so long, even from the very beginning. Okay? When we think about the beginning of Sophia and Ananias, what happened there? Oh, they saw Brother Barnabas sell and said, well, let's look good too. Let's do this. But at the same time, they paid for the mistakes that they made by withholding. So we need to be able to practice what we say and do in compassion. Which then brings me to my section 2 of the collaboration. How do we get this to get kicked off? How do we put into place the vision that is needed? Okay, and then be able to assess what's going on in the community where we're located, be able to recruit those individuals who can help make this happen, and then also get the information that's needed to be able to do some of these things that we're talking about. And then most of all, we need to cultivate those relationships in the community. But before all that can happen, all this first has to happen in the church. We have to be able to admit to ourselves that we're not perfect, that we have some issues. Every church has them. And again, I emphasize, every church has them. Currently, right now, I'm working in a community where I'm doing this. We're trying to build up the relationships in our community. And there's a couple of churches, big denominational churches in the neighborhood who say, well, we mean well, but, we have our congregation we need to minister to before we can take care of those. The community where I'm at right now, just right next door, are 3 apartment complexes. And if you was to go down there just passing by, you would not want to stop. Yet they know that the Salvation Army is their next door neighbor, but we sometimes don't reach out to them, okay, in trying to help them out. We're trying to change that. We're trying to build the relationships here with them so they understand that we're there to help them out. And again, how do you assess what's needed? Just got to look around. One of the big things that the Salvation Army is known for is its youth programs, our after-school programs, our women's ministry programs. This is how we start. By our after-school programs, by helping to opening our doors in the community so that say, you know what, we got a couple of tutors here that are willing to come and help you out and help you with the homework. And this is where I involve my congregation, my lay people. Come on, let's make a difference. You signed up to be in this army. You say God called you. Let's get to work. This is how you hold accountability to one another, not just for myself, but for them also, and then me to them. It's a relationship that we worked out. But this also has to happen that we have to be able to put our egos aside and see each other equally in God's eyes. We need to be able to kick out the nature of competitiveness to the side and work towards compassion. Because when we work in competitiveness, we're then focusing on the elite, those certain people we want in church. It's where the church then becomes exclusive instead of inclusive. Okay? But we need to be able to do the opposite. We need to be inclusive, not exclusive. This is the church. New members that in the competitiveness where new members are not wanted because they don't fit that desired mold. Or church people judge each other instead of helping guide each other back to Christ. And then we also have to be able to establish church members not wanting to seek help from the fellow Christians out of fear that they will appear less just basically peerless. Okay? And this is why we need to be able to raise the awareness of competitiveness, because that human nature that kicks in us that goes on unnoticed in our actions. Competitiveness stops teamwork. And without the church working together, opportunities of ministry are missed. And I'll say that again. When competitiveness kicks in, teamwork stops. And without the church working together, opportunities of ministry are missed. If we displace ourselves to be special, unique, or understanding, we simply exhibit subtle forms of competitiveness that lead not to community, but to the elitism. This is why it's important to raise awareness of compassion, because the compassion is not a life of weakness, but a new way of being together in the mystery of mission. Okay, God calls everyone who is listening, because there's no individual group for whom God's call is reserved. We're all called. And this only can happen is if we make prayer the center of our whole ministry. And I already got about 11 minutes here, but I want to get this as official. Prayer has to be the center of the whole ministry if we're going to focus out there in the community, if we're going to make the difference in the community, whether it be a food bank, a food pantry ministry, whether it be after school ministry, whether it be a women's ministry, it has to be focused on prayer. We have to have our eyes checked first and our hearts in place with Christ if we're going to make a difference in the community. This is why so many times they don't take us for real. And then finally, as I get to the end, we need to hold weekly meetings, just like we do for everything else, and hold each other accountable. Because as we go out there and recruit people to help us in our mission, as people look to us to make a difference in the community we're in, they're going to be wanting to hold us accountable. This is why I talked about Matthew 25, verses 31 through 46, where the Son of Man comes in his glory. We're all held accountable for our actions, for what we do, what we did, and what we say. Thank you, brothers and sisters. It's been a great trip doing through these 6 weeks of doing this compassion and ministry class. I have learned a lot. I've struggled some, but I have learned a lot. Thank you, and God bless you. May you have a great weekend. And from me and my girls, my Yorkies, we say goodbye.